Okay. No worries, no worries. Cameraman,
I quit.
No worries.
I'm out of here. This is unprofessional.
Oh, no. No worries. Yeah, give me the signal and tell me when. When. So, good afternoon. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for being here. My name is Samuel Monnie. I am the co-CEO, co-founder of Purpose Hive. And we are a purposeful growth solutions company. We help brands, people, and organizations to use purpose as a means of driving growth. And I'm so excited to be here today for this first inaugural Impact Debrief with yes, indeed. So, with the inimitable, the amazing, the wonderful Susan Credle, former chair, creative lead at FCB, but rather than me introducing you, would you please tell us about yourself and talk more about who you are and what brings you here?
Well, sure. I'm Susan Credle. I think my last formidable job was chair and global chief creative officer of FCB. Mm-hmm. I did do a little bit of work at Interpublic or IPG, but as we all know, Interpublic and FCB have lost their names as a brand because they're now absorbed into Omnicom based on that merger. So it's an interesting time, right, I think, for the people of Interpublic and Omnicom.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you again for being here. And you've just won an award, and I just want to make sure I get this. You've earned one of the industry's highest honors. It's the Lion of St. Mark, recognizing individuals who've made significant and lasting contributions to our industry, to the advertising industry. So I thought one of the questions I have is, rather than looking backwards, I'm curious what it makes you think about looking forwards, looking ahead.
Well, I have to say, I'm rarely surprised. And when they called and said, you're going to receive the Lion of St. Mark, I was like, that. I was a lot surprised.
Oh, wow. Okay.
No, I wasn't expecting it because I've never been. I've loved Cannes, and I've served on juries, and our teams have done very well at Cannes. But I've always been a little bit of the, I don't go up on stage. I kind of just watch, and so I didn't think I was very visible in this particular area of our business. And what was interesting is one of the people at Cannes said, well, how many Lions have you won? Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, one, I don't know. I don't keep count. And two, I stopped putting my name on credits about 15 years ago.
15 years ago?
Yeah. What happened was that back then, way back then, they had a limit of how many names could go on a submission. Right. And somebody wanted their name on a submission, and there wasn't room if my name was on. And I told the team, I said, you know what? I think this is the universe sending me a message. Mm-hmm. How about I never put my name on another credit? Wow. And let everybody else do it. And it was also because as a chief creative officer, I didn't want to spend any mental energy wondering, well, did I help that ad? Did I not help that campaign? Did I say something? Did I not say something? Did I have anything to do with it? Mm-hmm. Well, it just seemed like wasted mental activity. Mm-hmm. So I was like, let's stop. Okay. And I've always told everybody that worries about credit, I was like, the credit is in the experience of what you did and learning how you did it, not on having your name on a line. And so to me, the experience of what I learned from helping or creative directing was far more important than getting a credit. So anyways, when they said how many Lions, I was like, not many, because I haven't been putting my name on anything for a long time, especially, and it's easy to, when you run a global company and you're building it around creativity, a lot of people are doing a lot of amazing things. So, but yeah, so I didn't think I didn't think I would show up in the data, so to speak. and I think Simon Cook said, no, but the amount of people you've influenced has really made you visible. Yeah. And that meant a lot. Yeah.
Well, you said, I had a question about people, because when we first met at the conference, Creativity for Better, 9 months ago, what struck me about the conversation is whenever you talked about advertising in the industry and the creative work, you always talked about people. And so now it makes sense that 15 years ago, you said that everyone else can have the credit. But that just seems so intrinsic to you. What makes that so important? Because there's a lot of people here who'd cringe at giving up that, but the reward came back multiple.
Yeah,
surely.
I always say that generosity is weird math. The more you give away, the more that comes back to you. It's strange. It is it's kind of like the boomerang. It's like, have it, and it's like, no, it's back. And you just have to trust it. I was on the receiving end as a young writer of not getting credit and sometimes flat out having work taken.
Wow.
And I just remember how I felt about those people. I felt sad for them. And I was like, I don't ever want to be that kind of I don't want to ever feel like I have to take something from somebody to succeed. So, I learned from how I was treated.
Right.
And I was like, I don't want to ever do that purposely to somebody else.
So you didn't treat people how you were being treated, and then you were participating, and then you stopped taking credit for the work, and now you're winning.
And I'm telling you,
but
generosity is weird math.
Yeah, because you said Simon Cooke, and then you ended up on stage with one of the greatest honors ever by approaching that abundance and that gratitude mindset, which is so powerful, and it's such a rewarding story to hear that it's true and it works.
It does.
And it works. But as you were talking about your experience, you used the word experience, and when you were working in the industry, and I think one of the people who was listening to your talk earlier talked about your copywriting and the craft. So can you talk a little bit about your involvement in the craft of creating and advertising?
Well, I really believe in craft and the beauty of it, and I think it's important. A lot of times we go, well, we just make ads. My feeling is we have a huge responsibility as people that create, especially in the world of advertising. We meet people where they didn't expect to meet us. We interrupt lives. And if we're in that business, we better be making beautiful things that people don't get frustrated by being interrupted, but they are pleased or happy,
right.
And I've always believed that about advertising. And that's why when we talk about performance marketing and just putting a message in front of people when they need it the most, it's the smallest part of what we do and the easiest, and I don't even think it works. We have great responsibility when we show up in public, and we should take that seriously.
Well, you talk about responsibility, and you're just talking about the performance and how it doesn't work. So how do you have that conversation? Is it to push back? Is it to reframe? How do you bring people along to your vision of how you see things and some of the creative work? Because I'd love to get in some of the creative work that you've been involved in. But how do you handle that situation?
I hire really talented people.
Okay, that's
Danilo Bauer, who's been, the last couple of years was my creative partner at FCB. And, I just was like, he said, your superpower is you are attracted to very talented people with high taste level. And a lot of people won't hire people better than they are, or worry that if I hire this person, I might not look as strong.
Right.
And I'm the opposite. I'm like, hire the best people you can. And I always say I would rather have extraordinary with me for a moment than average forever.
Okay. I would write that down, but I'm supposed to be listening to you and focused on that. Can you just say that again?
I would rather work with an extraordinary person for a moment than average forever.
Okay. Capture that, everyone. Someone capture that for me, because that is... you have it. Okay, I'll watch you back.
And look, I have to be honest. It's hard when you hire someone and you're moving along and you're doing great things, and then they get a call to go be the CCO of something, and you're like, oh, no, don't go. And then that little ugly part of you goes, I should have never let him be that good.
But you must have your reputation must precede you, that greatness follows. I was capturing people after your word earlier, and I spoke with I think a person called Pat Doyle, who's a professor at BYU, and he was telling a story of how you've hired so many of his students, and I think it was Matt Miller who was someone.
Yeah, so Matt Miller was a little junior copywriter at Leo when we came up with the Mayhem campaign, and it was the first. So at this moment, it was 2009, maybe early 2010, and I had just taken the job as CCO at Leo Burnett, and at the time there were no female CCOs in America.
in America.
With big agencies. I can't speak for the rest of the world, but as big agencies, there were no CCOs. And in fact, I never even thought about becoming a CCO because I didn't see any. So it wasn't that I didn't think I could. I just never even dawned on me.
Wow.
And so this was the first campaign for a major client at Leo Burnett, Allstate. And I was like, if I mess this up, I think that might be the end of female CCOs in America.
That's a lot of pressure.
And so this concept of mayhem and impersonating different kinds of mayhem that you might meet in everyday life came up, and I was like, I remember telling one of the creators, I think it was Jeannie Caggiano, I was like, this could either be really good or really bad. I mean, it's not going to be in the middle. And the team came in with, I think we were shooting with Phil Morrison, and I trust him with his casting, his direction, his comedy. And they showed me the three people that were up for the role of mayhem, and I always tell my creative teams, like, I don't know that much more than you do about what's creative, but there are 2 times you have to listen to me. When I get chills.
Right.
And Juan Woodbury says, no, it's when you get on your knees on the sofa and start going like this. I'm like, do I do that?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, I wish I'd known that earlier.
Right.
And then when I want to throw up. And they came in and they showed me the casting. I said, you know that rule we had early on? I'm going to throw up. And they were like, well, what? I was like, you have to can't move the shoot. We do not have an actor. And you could see they were like, well, move the shoot, what? And I was like, no, I'm serious. I really am sick to my stomach. And I said, it's not your fault. It's just, this is a very hard role to play because it's dark, but you don't want it to be creepy.
Right.
And we need a great comedic dark actor. And Matt Miller, who was, he goes, well, when I was writing the scripts, I had Dean Winter's voice in my head. And at the time, Dean was playing some just weird roles on 30 Rock and a couple of other things, but he wasn't super well known, but great actor. And we're like, let's go see if we can get him. And he auditioned, and he was fantastic. And the rest is, a 3-month campaign, that campaign was supposed to run the summer of 2010. And we're in 2026, and it's still kicking. They take it off the air a lot, and then they bring it back.
Because it works. I wonder why they bring it back. Is it because it works?
It's what we've been hearing today, which is consistency.
Yeah.
I always say, and Marcel said it about brands are like humans. If you think about it, if you haven't seen somebody in a couple of years and you walk in and you see this familiar face that you care about, and it feels so good. And so that's what's lovely about being famous for a very specific kind of creative and from a brand, is that you can take it away and bring it back. And when you bring it back, the love, the joy of seeing it again, and again, we don't worry enough about wear out. Wear out doesn't mean stop. It means take a break.
Yeah.
And I think that's what, even when we used to, the M&Ms, working on that early on, when we first introduced the characters, people were really like, oh, so look at those characters. And then we started to realize, like, oh, as soon as the spot comes on and people see the characters, it's like, oh, it's an M&M's ad.
Right.
And so we started writing all of our pieces so that the M&M only came in at like second 24 of a 30-second spot. And I remember the first time the client goes, wait, Susan, I'm buying a 30-second spot.
The
and the only time I see my brand is at second 24. And I was like, no, this is like a joke.
Yeah.
Like, you don't remember the setup of the joke. You remember the punchline. We are making them the punchline. The whole 20 seconds is to set up an unforgettable moment for your brand.
And how did I guess the conversation, but I'm having come traditionally from the brand side, as you're setting up the story, I'm thinking, that's a tough sell. You're telling me I'm paying for 30 and I'm only going to show up for this last 6 seconds. How did you get that over the line?
Because it worked.
But it didn't work till it worked.
Yeah, well, that's true. I think we had built up enough trust as a relationship thing. And they were great. There was one of my favorite ones. And also we were reading the room, so to speak. I guess we call it reading the data now or whatever. But, you could just feel that people were turning the channel. So here was the difference. It's like M&M's comes up, turn the channel, versus ad comes up, watch, and then
it's M&M's at the end.
So
surprise and delight.
You can either have your first second scene and nobody sees the back 24, or you can pull somebody in and slam them over the head. But we did one where I wanted it to look like a Visa or credit card commercial, and this guy's checking into the hotel. and the hotel, the concierge or receptionist is saying, would you like a free newspaper in the morning? Would you like a shoe shine? Would you like turn down service? And the guy's like, yeah, sure, yeah, sure, yeah, sure. And it's like, would you like a chocolate on your pillow? And he goes, yeah, fine. And you do a hard cut, and he's there with the red M&M on the pillow. And it's very uncomfortable. And they're just both sitting there, and the red M&M goes, can I watch TV? And the guy's like, no. And the brief was, remind people that M&Ms are chocolate. But the journey of taking you through, and you don't see it coming, is what made it so powerful. And again, respecting your audience.
Yeah.
But the client the client, he was like, it didn't test well. And I was like, well, what was wrong with it? Why? Nobody understood the concept of a hard cut. So they were like, wait, he's checking in and now he's in bed? What is that? And I was like, trust me, when we edit it, it will work. It'll be fine. And I remember he made me write a note. It goes, I, Susan Credle, stand behind the hard edit, and that most of America will understand the joke.
I apologize.
And I signed it. I was like, I don't understand what this gets, like, I don't know what this I mean, it's not like it's legal or anything. It's not legally binding, but I guess you can go and tell on me. Look, Susan told me.
I apologize for all brand side marketers everywhere watching this. This, unfortunately, I'm cringing because this sounds like.
Have you had this conversation?
Yes, I may have been one of those people who've been sort of requesting, not demanding, the assurance, and I've slowly learned and I think grown through my career to be more humble in front of people on the creative side.
Yeah.
And one of the things I always say to marketers is, please ask your agency people to grade the briefs you give them.
Yeah.
And be ready for the answer they give you. And so that for me is a humbling and learning moment. It was when I asked the question and they said, Sam, your briefs are around a 4. And I said, 4? We've been working together for a year. Why haven't you told me before? If I can get it to an 8, then you can add magic on top. But if a brief sucks, it's going to be hard to fix it.
And I think sometimes we try to make the briefs too special. Like Paul Michaels used to apologize and say, I'm sorry that, they're so flat. I'm like, no, they're beautiful. Imagine, remind people that M&Ms are chocolate. Oh my goodness, how much fun. We had one with Bradley Whitford and his wife at the time. The one was the chocolate on the pillow, but this one was we ran it in April. This is important about when are you running something. Ran it in April, and Bradley Whitford comes in and says, well, did you ever open the heart box of chocolates I gave you? And she goes, no. And he goes, where is it? And it was up on a shelf in the kitchen. He pulls it down and he opens it, and it's the red M&M inside. And obviously, Valentine's is in February. So we were telling the audience, it's been February, March, April, 3 months. Red's been in the cabinet in the Valentine's Day box.
Wow.
And again, it came from remind people that M&Ms are chocolate. So all we did was look at occasions where chocolate is the obvious answer, and then write a narrative, a story, with the M&Ms playing the protagonist.
So I'm getting how many minutes alert have I got to go? I got 5 more minutes, 2 more minutes. Okay, so
we're done.
Before we go, let's just going to sneak in one quick question. So when you look to the next generation of marketers, creatives, and business leaders, what gives you the most hope about their ability to drive positive change or positive impact?
So I had the fortunate job of being on the inaugural creative brand jury this year, which is given. I wasn't quite sure what it was meant to do, and now I'm much more sure of what its meaning is going to be, which is that to reward clients who are building culture inside of their companies to understand how creativity works and the power of it. So what I'm excited about is, like, when I got into the business, sometimes my clients were on a rotation, and they had just come off of buying toilet paper for the company, and now they were doing their turn in marketing. Okay. And you're like, oh my Lord, right? You don't. This is a little different. This is not buying toilet paper for the company, because they were trying to teach everybody
how to do all the different roles,
the pieces of the company, which is kind of okay, but it's kind of saying that this doesn't take an expert. And what I'm seeing is the clients that I work with now, we have very, very great conversations about creativity and the power of it and what it does. And the more educated clients get about what's a bad brief and what's the thing, it's going to make creativity, I think, so much more exciting and less frustrating. So I'm encouraged by what I'm seeing over there.
Right.
What I'm worried about is that on the agency side, creative agencies are being devalued because right now the way the business is set up, agencies on a spreadsheet do not make the money compared to other parts of our business. But what I will argue is without what the creative makes, all those other parts of the business that do make money start to erode. So we have got to either on faith believe that creativity drives all of this other stuff that does make the money. Or we need to relook at how we think about, like one crazy idea I had is that every time media is placed, a percentage of what a media company used to get, a percentage of it goes back to the agency or the person that made the work that's being placed. Because then you would start to understand the value.
Of that.
Because without creative, and a lot of times we say, you know, well, if you make really great creative, you don't have to put as much money behind it. And then that's true. But in my experience, every time we've done a piece of great creative that catches on, especially when I was working on AT&T, they had a lot of money. My client would go, okay, the CFO just called and said, whatever you're doing, put X number of more dollars behind it because it's working. The creative agency should get credit for creating the kind of work that people want to put more money behind.
Yeah, I think that's such a wise perspective.
Listen to that.
Follow the money, and if it's working, that proves
But we haven't set up the business model to realize that's driving a lot of action.
Wow. Well, thank you so much, Susan. We could sit here for another 2 hours, I'm sure. I just so inspired by the energy, the passion, and also the storytelling, but the humanity that you bring and the naming of the people and the vibrancy you have for what you do and what's next. So thank you for spending time at the Lions Impact Hub. We appreciate you so much, and hopefully you have a great rest of your conference. Thank you so much.
It's great to see you again.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. That was fast and furious.
What time is it?
12:38.
I'm perfectly on time. Sure.